minutes. Okay. Scan this all the way around. It was a beautiful summer day. The sky was blue, not a cloud anywhere to be seen. A man was out walking his dog. He had a pit bull and he was taking him out in a wooded area to get a little exercise. He didn't have a leash on him, and as they was walking along, he could feel the crunch of the pine needles underneath his feet. After a while, the dog decided to wander off on his own direction. The man called him back, but the dog would not respond. He called him again, still wouldn't respond, which was very uncharacteristic about this dog, because normally he listened to his owner's commands. So the gentleman decided to follow his dog and see where he went. Today I will persuade you that pit bulls are one of the most misconceived breeds of dog, and that breed selective legislation does not promote public safety. Those of you that do not like pit bulls or are against pit bulls, I will give you information as to their true character and things about them. Those of you that like pit bulls, I will give you information so that you can talk out against breed selective information as it arises. A few years back, I had a family pet that was a pit bull, and she was euthanized just because of this breed selective legislation that has been passed. Since then, I have done research in articles, websites, and newspapers on the subject of BSL, or breed selective legislation, and pit bull misconceptions. Today, I would like to talk about breed selective legislation, some of the misconceptions of pit bulls, and some alternatives to breed selective legislation. The media has been and continues to be a contributing factor in the fostering of fear in the public. It was back in the 1960s when they did it with German Shepherds, in the 1970s when they did it with Dobermans, in the 1990s when they did it with Rottweilers, and now in the 2000s with pit bulls. In response to this hysteria created by dissemination of misinformation, laws banning certain breeds of dogs have been passed. Breed selective legislation does nothing more than punish good owners, good dogs that are very friendly, that are properly supervised and well socialized, just because they are of a certain breed. Most breed selective legislation does nothing more than a quick fix to a situation to help reduce further incidences of bites or attacks. And this is from the Pit Bull Placebo book by Karen DeLice of 2007. Breed selective legislation is more apt to compromise public safety than it is to increase it. In the fact that it takes away from the routine, effective enforcement of laws that will promote public safety and instead concentrates on using these resources on restricting or banning specific breeds. The Humane Society of the U.S. opposes any laws that are aimed at forbidding or regulating dog ownership based on breed or type. They state that breed-specific legislation does not promote public safety or reduce dog bite incidences. And this is from their website, humanesociety.org, last viewed July 9, 2013. Now that we've talked about breed selective legislation and some of the problems, I would like to talk about some of the misconceptions of pit bulls. Misconception number one, pit bulls have a locking jaw. This is false. Pit bulls do not have a locking jaw. Dr. Brisbane of the University of Georgia did a study and determined that the jaws of pit bulls exactly resemble, or there's no difference between those and that of other breeds. Dr. Barr of the National Geographic also did a research on the bite pressure of a pit bull and found that the bite pressure in PSI was less for a pit bull than that of a German Shepherd or a Rottweiler. Misconception number 2, pit bulls are human aggressive. A pit bull has never been human aggressive or bred to be human aggressive. Many of you may remember a TV show called The Little Rascals. A group of little kids and their dog Pete. Dog Pete was a pit bull. Misconception number 3. Pit bulls are ticking time bombs. Again, that is a false. According to the American Temper Testing Society, they had done tests on 185 different breeds of dogs and have found that the American Pit Bull Terrier is a 90% success, which is better than even the Collies or the German Shepherds or Golden Retrievers. Now that I have talked about the misconceptions of pit bulls, I would like to talk about some of the alternatives to breed selective legislation. Dog problems will decline when owners have access or better access to critical services such as vet care, spading and neutering, and information on behavior. They also, by activating or having concepts or processes that are aimed at preventing the dog bites from happening in the first place, along with appropriate law enforcement reaction to bite incidences, will create a safer, more humane approach to managing dogs in communities. And this is from the humanesociety.org's website, last viewed July 9th, 2013. There has been evidence that the pit bull is a misconceived breed of dog, and that dog selective legislation does not provide public safety. I have done this by explaining what BSL is, some of the misconceptions of pit bulls, and some alternatives to that. As a man decided to follow his pit bull into the woods deeper, he come upon an autistic boy who had fallen in a deep mud hole and could not get out. The dog walked up to the boy and licked his face. The father of the son later claimed that that pit bull saved his son's life, because without that pit bull finding him, they never would have found him. And that is a true story that was related in a news article. I would ask that you stand up and speak out against any breed selective legislation that comes up into our communities. Let's punish the deed, not the breed. In closing, I would like to quote Dorothy Thompson when she said, "There is nothing to fear except the persuasive refusal to find out the truth, the persuasive refusal to analyze the causes of happiness." Thank you.
Good.
Very good.
Are you presenting this in Congress or before legislation? Or you presented it before God's